Bruce Lee was teaching when self-proclaimed king challenged him, 7 seconds later shattered. The challenge of the self-proclaimed king. Bruce Lee's dojo in Hong Kong was silent except for the rhythmic sound of feet gliding across the mat and the whistle of the wind cutting through the air with each blow. The students, immersed in the practice of Jeet Kune Do, watched in awe as the master demonstrated a sequence of kicks and blocks, his speed so impressive that the movement could barely be distinguished. Among them, a young man named Li Wei, just 17 years old, was trying to keep up, his eyes shining with admiration. It was then that the door opened with a bang. A tall man, dressed in a black silk suit with gold embroidery, entered as if the place belonged to him. His hair was slicked back, shiny with oil, and a cocky smile curved his thin lips. Behind him, 2 muscular bodyguards blocked the entrance, arms crossed, gazes challenging. "I am the king of Kung Fu," announced the man, his voice echoing throughout the room. "I heard this is the place where they teach real combat. Well, I came to prove that it is nothing more than an illusion." The students stopped, tense. Bruce Lee, however, did not move. He continued in his relaxed posture, his eyes fixed on the intruder. "And who are you to make such a statement?" he asked, his voice calm, almost indifferent. The man laughed, a short, humorless sound. "My name is Zhang Wei, and I am the undefeated champion of all the southern provinces. I defeated masters, street fighters, even Shaolin monks. And now, I come to challenge you." A murmur ran through the dojo. Zhang Wei was not unknown. His victories were legendary, as was his cruelty. It was said that he fought not just to win, but to humiliate, break bones, and scar his opponents forever. Bruce Lee did not respond immediately. Instead, he walked over to a shelf and grabbed a glass of water, drinking it slowly. The gesture was deliberate, a silent provocation. "If you want to fight, fight," he said finally, putting the glass back. "But not here. My students don't need to see this." Zhang Wei smiled, satisfied. "Very good. Outside, then. And let everyone see the end of your farce." The courtyard behind the dojo was empty except for a small crowd that had quickly formed. Bruce Lee's students crowded near the door, some with expressions of concern, others of excitement. Li Wei in particular was clenching his fists, wishing he could do something. Zhang Wei took off his jacket, revealing defined muscles marked by old scars. His bodyguards positioned themselves a safe distance away, ready to intervene if necessary. "Rules?" asked Bruce Lee, still barefoot, wearing only his simple gi. "None," replied Zhang Wei. "To death, if necessary." Bruce Lee nodded, as if the answer was expected. "Then start." Zhang Wei did not hesitate. In one fluid movement, he threw a punch straight at Bruce Lee's face, followed by a low kick aimed at his knees. It was fast, brutal, a combination that had already taken down dozens of opponents. But Bruce Lee wasn't there. His body moved like water, dodging the punch with a slight turn of his hip and blocking the kick with his opposite leg. Before Zhang Wei could react, a precise strike struck his solar plexus, stealing his breath. He stumbled back, eyes wide with surprise. "That isn't possible," he panted. Bruce Lee did not respond. Instead, it advanced. What followed was a display of speed and precision that left everyone astonished. Zhang Wei tried to fight back, throwing punches and kicks with all his strength, but each attack was dodged or blocked with frightening efficiency. Bruce Lee didn't fight in anger, he fought with control, each movement calculated to inflict maximum damage with minimum effort. Then came the final blow. Zhang Wei, already exhausted, tried one last desperate attack, a spinning kick that could have decapitated an ordinary man. Bruce Lee ducked, allowing the kick to pass over his head, and in an almost imperceptible movement, delivered a short, dry punch to Zhang Wei's temple. The impact was devastating. Zhang Wei fell like a puppet whose strings had been cut, his body limp before he even hit the ground. His bodyguards advanced, but stopped when they saw the master lying motionless, his eyes glassy. "Silence!" Then, one of the older students came over and checked Zhang Wei's pulse. "He's alive," he announced, relieved. Bruce Lee wiped his hand on his pants, as if he had just touched something dirty. "Take him away from here," he ordered. "And tell whoever sent it that Kung Fu is not the property of self-proclaimed kings." The now pale bodyguards dragged Zhang Wei out of the courtyard. The crowd slowly dispersed, murmuring among themselves. Li Wei, however, remained where he was, looking at Bruce Lee with a mixture of admiration and determination. "Master," he began, but Bruce Lee interrupted him with a gesture. "Go back to training, Li Wei. True strength is not in defeating enemies, but in never needing to fight." The young man nodded, returning to the dojo with a new fire in his eyes. Meanwhile, Bruce Lee looked up at the sky, where the sun was beginning to set over Hong Kong. He knew that this would not be the last challenge. Men like Zhang Wei always returned, or worse, sent others in his place. But that didn't matter. Because, in the end, true Kung Fu wasn't about winning. It was about being prepared. The path of serenity. The following days were marked by tense silence in the dojo. Li Wei trained with an intensity that surprised even his most dedicated colleagues. His movements, once rigid, gained fluidity, as if each blow was an extension of his own thoughts. Bruce Lee watched him from afar, satisfied but speechless. The true master did not need to praise, it was enough for the disciple to find his own way. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Hong Kong, Zhang Wei had not disappeared. Wounded by his pride, he took refuge among the contacts he still had left, men who saw public humiliation as a debt to be collected. It didn't take long for rumors to reach Bruce Lee's ears. "They're gathering at the abandoned pier," the informants whispered. "They don't just want a rematch. They want blood." One night, as the dojo was emptying, Bruce Lee called Li Wei for a private conversation. "You saw how Zhang Wei reacted," he said, adjusting the sash of his kimono. Anger blinded him. And a blind man is dangerous, because he doesn't see the consequences of his actions. Li Wei lowered his eyes. "Master, I'm not afraid of them. If they come, I'll be ready." Bruce Lee smiled, but there was a shadow of concern in his eyes. "It's not about being ready to fight. It's about being ready not to fight." Before Li Wei could respond, a bang echoed outside. Glass shattered. A burning bottle rolled across the dojo floor, spreading fire across the mats. The students who were still at the scene rushed to put out the flames, but it was too late, the fire was already spreading. Among the smoke, figures emerged. Zhang Wei, his face marked by fresh scars, led a group of men armed with iron bars and chains. His eyes shone with a thirst for revenge that went beyond reason. "This time, there will be no audience to save you," Zhang Wei growled, stepping forward. "And not even that little disciple of yours will escape." Bruce Lee didn't move. He just took a deep breath, as if the fire around him was nothing more than a passing breeze. "You still don't understand, do you?" he said, calmly. "Kung Fu is not about destroying. It's about transcending." Zhang Wei laughed, a harsh and joyless sound. "Then transcend this." He attacked with a violent punch, but Bruce Lee dodged it with a lightness that seemed to defy gravity. The other men advanced, but before they could surround him, Li Wei stepped between them, taking up a defensive stance. "No!" Bruce Lee shouted, but it was too late. Li Wei blocked the first blow, but the chain from one of the attackers hit him in the shoulder, causing him to fall. Zhang Wei raised his fist to deliver the final blow, but Bruce Lee intervened with a quick movement, disarming him with a precise kick. The leader of the invaders staggered, but did not retreat. "You can defeat us as many times as you want," Zhang Wei spat. "But as long as we breathe, we will return." Bruce Lee looked at him, and for the first time, there was something other than serenity in his eyes, a deep sadness. "Then you will never learn." The sound of sirens approached. Someone had called the police. Zhang Wei's men retreated, dragging their leader with them, but not before issuing one last warning. "This is not over. The dojo was in ruins. The flames had been brought under control, but the smell of smoke and destruction hung in the air. Li Wei stood up, holding his injured shoulder. Master. I failed. Bruce Lee placed his hand on his shoulder, not tightly, but firmly. You acted on impulse. Anger is a flame that consumes before it even lights up. He looked around at the rubble of what had once been a place of peace. But now, you understand. Li Wei lowered his head. I understand. The last teaching. In the days that followed, Bruce Lee closed the dojo. Not out of fear, but because he knew that the real battle was not against men like Zhang Wei, but against the ignorance that drove them. He began teaching in secret, in parks and squares, to those who were really looking for the path. Li Wei, healed from his physical wounds, bore a deeper scar. He trained alone now, not with the fury of before, but with a stillness that surprised even himself. One night, while meditating by the harbor, he heard footsteps behind him. You're still here, said Zhang Wei, emerging from the shadows. His voice no longer had the arrogance it had before, just a tiredness that seemed centuries old. Li Wei did not get up. Where else would I be? Zhang Wei hesitated, then sat down next to him, as if the weight of years of hatred had finally crushed him. I lost everything. My men, my name, even my family's respect. He laughed, bitterly. And the worst thing is that I don't even know why. Li Wei looked at him, and for the first time, he saw not an enemy, but a broken man. Because you confused force with violence. Zhang Wei was silent for a long time. What do I do now? Li Wei took a deep breath. Start again. The legacy. Years later, Bruce Lee was no longer in Hong Kong. His path had taken him to other places, other battles, not with fists, but with words, with philosophy, with the art of uniting instead of dividing. But his legacy remained. Li Wei, now a master in his own right, reopened the dojo. Not as a place of confrontation, but of learning. Among his students, one day, a man appeared with a face marked by old scars. Zhang Wei, now older and calmer, asked to be accepted as a disciple. I don't deserve it, he said, humbly. Li Wei smiled. Nobody deserves it. But everyone can start over. And so, under the same sky where violence had once tried to prevail, true kung fu flourished, not as a weapon, but as a path. Because, in the end, the greatest victory was not over others. It was about himself.